join. The recording of this session today will be sent out to everyone. If you have any questions, please throw them in the Q&A section. We are joined by two lovely individuals that will be taking us through this presentation today. My name is Cooper West. I'm in customer success here at Blackbaud, and we have Vicki Wong from the University School, and we have Rebecca here with us from our professional services team, who is going to take us through the presentation. Thank you again for joining us. If you have any questions throughout, please feel free to throw them in chat, and we will be monitoring the chat. But I also will make sure that we get to your questions. If any questions get unaddressed during the session today, we will also follow up with you to make sure that you have the information you need.
Thank you, Cooper.
Thank you. Okay, so if you can put in chat your name and where you're coming from, that will be great. I also have one question or a couple of questions. Do you know what a dashboard is in Power BI? And what are the KPIs that your leadership would like to see? Great, thank you. So the topic of my presentation, or our presentation, is Insights at a Glance, Unlocking the Power of Power BI Dashboards. So with that, wait, hang on a second, I need to make sure. And I'm Vicki Wong. I'm the Director of Research and Advancement Information Systems at University School.
Hi guys, you might have seen me already. This is my third back-to-back presentation, so I see those of you that are like, oh, these back-to-backs. You're telling me. So I'm rushing on over here from Kansas City, Missouri, and representing Blackbaud Professional Services here. I've been working with Vicki on very closely on Power BI, and we're just having a blast together.
Yes, yes, it's a lot of fun trying to create reports and dashboards. So I actually have the pleasure of working with Rebecca for 2 years. And 2 years ago, I got this What's Your Data award at BBDEF Days. And as part of the reward, I received 40 hours of consulting time with Rebecca. And here we are 2 years later doing more and bigger and better things with Power BI. So I'm very excited to be partnering with her and collaborating with her. So thank you so much, Rebecca. Good. So let me give you the agenda for today. Sorry, I'm still trying to learn how to navigate. Here's the agenda, a little background to, my school, what we're working on, and then reasons why, a comprehensive dashboard for our school, and then what is a Power BI dashboard? Because a lot of people talk about dashboards, but there's a specific Power BI dashboard that I found out from Rebecca, and that's when we started collaborating with what KPIs that our leadership needs and building a dashboard for them. So, and then finally, how to create and publish a dashboard. It's actually to create and publish it can be very simple, but there are some things that you may wanted to know ahead of time with regards to the look and feel of the dashboard. So that's what I'm going to show you. And finally, Rebecca will talk about the Power BI app. Lots of apps. Okay, so a little bit about University School. We are a K-12 all-boys schools covering 2 campuses in the suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio. We have 850 students, And we use all Blackbaud products, most of the Blackbaud products, from education management to Razor's Edge to Financial Edge. We actually started with Razor's Edge first, and then added education management, or then, Whipple Hill, and then Financial Edge at about 7 years ago. And then we are also a Microsoft school. So what we use is mostly Microsoft products that we have SharePoint, we have Power Automate, Power App, Power BI. So it's a lot of Microsoft products that we are doing. So naturally, we lean on using the Power BI as our report platform. And finally, our technology department is small but mighty. We're a department of size 5 people, and we have 2 data person. It's myself and one other person. And so we're in the advancement data management side. So why a comprehensive dashboard? Leadership always requests, that, I wanted to know, how are we doing? How's admissions doing? How many candidates do we have? How many inquiries? How many people have completed the application? How many we have accepted, and how many are coming? So these are very, very common questions that our leadership would request once in a while. Top leaders, whereas our admissions director is always focusing on all the metrics. And then you also have our finance director looking for how our net tuition status is. So are we making any, what's our receivable, what's our tuition, and what's our net revenue. And then we have in my department, we're focusing on the campaign progress. So how are we working? How are we doing with the campaign, and how's our annual fund doing? So these are all very important numbers. And, from the finance side, the cash flow, how are we doing in cash, in terms of getting our revenue? And finally, security is also very important. We want each of the department to see their work, but when you rolled it up, only the top leadership will see the consolidated KPI data. Okay, so here's our Power BI dashboard report structure. So as I said, we use enrollment management and student management, as well as Razor's Edge and Financial Edge. We use the Sky API and REFEQ, and by way of Power Automate to extract our data. So I actually have 4 or 5 flows that runs. Some flows I run hourly, some flows I run daily, depending on the situation. I will pull the data from the various different products. And then from that point on, we have multiple files. For example, I have an admission progress file, enrollment file, student comparison, diversity, annual fund analysis, campaign progress. Right now, they're all CSV files. So I kind of in SharePoint. So these various different files are located in the respective SharePoint folders. And eventually, maybe we'll put it into Fabric. And maybe by then I will have a lake house or I don't want to say warehouse, but eventually I think we want to move towards a more managed, easier to manage environment. But right now, everything is under SharePoint. And then from that point on, I have my Power BI report where we have our for admissions, academics, demographics, advancement, as well as finance. And then what we do is from those Power BI reports, we actually publish them to a workspace. And from that workspace, we create the leadership dashboard. So thank you. So here we are. So let me just sort of like navigation challenge today. Okay, Rebecca.
All right. So what is this dashboard? We saw how the disparate data comes together. We've got multiple different reports now. The dashboard brings them together on a single page canvas. And the whole concept of a dashboard is that your users should be able to spot within the first few seconds what they need to know more about. Just it's not going to give them all of the details. It's just going to help to highlight that looks off. I need to dig in. And we do that with the tiles that come available. So yeah, Vicki, you'll have to click for me. Thank you. So a dashboard is composed of tiles that then link to that greater detail. So again, I'll say the single page canvas, users should not be scrolling. They should not be clicking to another page. They should be able to spot within the first few seconds what they want to then click through to get more detail on. And the next point is that the data is going to be updated on the same refresh schedule as each of those different reports that are coming together. And so speaking of different reports, the last point I want to make is that the dashboard is coming from multiple data sources. What we mean is we have separate semantic models. So initially, when I was coming from Tableau into Power BI, which maybe some of you have been there, I said, I don't get it. I can only have one model per report in Tableau. I felt like I could create all these different little mini models and then pull everything together into what Tableau considered a dashboard right there in the report. This is a little bit of a different concept because Microsoft comes at data modeling a little bit differently. And first of all, I found that the semantic model was more powerful than what I could build in a single Tableau data source, though Tableau's come a little way since then. But semantic model was very powerful and could cover a lot. Yet, in Vicki's case, she really has separate data marts that are specific to education management or specific to the campaign progress, right? And so it still makes sense to have these separate semantic models supporting separate reports. Yet we want those executives to be able to say, oh, I need to know more about my enrollment management because I see this number is not what I expected. So I'll click through that tile to get more info on that report. So I hope that highlights what the purpose of the Power BI dashboard is, to bring together multiple reports and be that quickest determination of where those executives want to put their eyes next, right?
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, so here is the demo. So how you create a dashboard. So if you are so right here, I have a demo workspace and I have an advancement report that I published to the workspace, and then I have an enrollment report. Okay, very, very simple and very basic. So to create a dashboard, it's actually even simpler. You go to the plus new item right here, and then choose the dashboard tile, right? And then from that point on, you just create a dashboard name, and then that's it. But when you open it up, actually, there isn't much on that. It's just blank space. The one thing that I did and that you should all do is to create a dashboard theme. As I said, a lot of trial and error. If you don't create a dashboard theme, sometimes the tile that you pin does not show up correctly. So always create a dashboard theme, which is similar to what your tile that you wanted to pin. And you can see it in a second. And in my case, I want the tile to be black, background to be white, and then font color to be white. And then here's pinning the first visual. So here's actually my campaign report, the front top page where I have the campaign commitments date to date data with the goal and the outright gifts, the deferred gifts, and what's the remainder. And then each of the donut chart is actually our campaign initiative. It might look a little, scattered, but there's a reason for that. And then the pin visual. So when you're at the workspace and open up the report, there is this pin visual. And if you see that pin visual, and you have to, hopefully your screen is large enough, there's actually a very, a different visual in the back. So here's the reason why. So in the back, I'm actually pinning the tile that I want to show on the dashboard. So instead of showing the total amount, I'm showing the percentage of goal, which I think that's what, our leadership would like to see. This is how we are at. This is where we are at for annual fund, and this is where we are at for our campaign goals. And then all you need to do is to say pin to the dashboard. But you can, as you can see on my left, that's the reason why you have to do the theme first. I have no idea why this is happening, but sometimes it will give me a blank tile with no numbers. So here's visual number 2. Here is our enrollment progress report with our enrollment, revenue, tuition, and total aid at one. This is just demo data. So this is the first page of my Power BI report. And if you look at the pin visual in the back, this is our enrollment progress tile that I'm going to pin to the dashboard. And as you can see, I've resized the numbers, because if the numbers are too big, then the tile will run over. So bear with me. So here's the next.
And before you move on, Vicki, I wanted to point out some other tricks that because it's probably very much like a double take from our audience. Wait, why are we pinning a visual that was on the dashboard? It was hidden behind the main visual. So you explained that it's because we needed that font to actually be a different size setting to look good in the dashboard. So there was some trial and error there to figure out what it needed to look like in order to fit on the dashboard. But also on the dashboard, we always want it to display the current year, while we want to present our users of the report with the option to go back in time and look at prior years. So the visual that was front and foremost on that report was connected to the slicer and letting users choose their year. The visual that was hidden in the background that we actually pinned to the dashboard was set to always show the current year and had the font set just exactly how we needed it. We, of course, still had to have the pinned visual on the physical report, because it's the fact that it was pinned from that report that then allows the end user to click on it in the dashboard and navigate to the report.
Yep.
So that is like something that when we first started, we said, oh, maybe this isn't going to work, because we were not happy with how the default, how any of the visuals that were on our report then subsequently displayed in the dashboard. And we came up with this solution to hide a visual that was developed specifically to display precisely what we needed.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of trial and error. So if you look here, when you pin the dashboard here, all of a sudden, hey, the theme background showed up. I have no idea why. Sometimes it showed up and sometimes it doesn't, but always good to get the theme set up the way that you want it. And then all you need to do is to then go to the dashboard. So again, if you look here, this is the dashboard. These are the numbers, and they don't look very nice because it's just two tiles and nothing much. So what I did was you can stack the tile and show that it showed a little nicer. And then I just wanted to let you know that you can add a tile. So in a minute, I'm going to show you how to add some branding to your report. And then I'm going to show a little bit about the mobile layout, talk a little bit about the mobile layout. So if you go into add a tile, add an image, all I did was I actually took an image, a banner that I have from our school, and then I plop it into the dashboard. Remember, at this point, resize the banner on the right side instead of moving to the left. And believe me, I've done all my resizing before, and resize it on the left side and not when you stack it. So once you stack it, this is what it looks like. So now you're beginning to see your KPI and in a presentable format for your leadership. And when you open it up, now you can actually, when you open up, you can click to open up there's a little thing when you just click on it, you can open up to the report. And then if you see, that's actually the percentage of goal. And then this is the real top page of the banner of the report. So there are two different visuals. And then finally, if you want to resize your mobile layout, very simple. You just do drag and drop. You have to drag and drop and pin it. And then, and that's pretty much it. And you can see it actually resized very nicely. Actually, I have to. And you can see all the various different KPIs on one dashboard on the phone. And all you have to do, if you wanted to take a look at your dashboard, you just have to go install the Power BI on your mobile device. And then you open up your Power BI, and then I can then see the demo on your phone. And actually, the very nice part is once you authenticate it once, you just open up the Power BI report and it's there and you can see it. You don't have to, your leadership can check it, every so often. Oh, how are we doing on our campaign? How are we doing, enrollment wise? I actually have a different tile for the 25-26 year in the production version. So so our leadership can see, how are we comparing our enrollment progress, between the 2 years. And then from that point on, here's the reason why you would want to have a donut chart. Responsive design is actually pretty important if you want to display your Power BI report on the phone. And then you have to then flip your phone to see actually the enrollment progress. But I guess I can redo it and do something differently to show the various different bar charts. Oh, and finally, this is totally monitorable. Is that a right word? You can actually see who's opening the various different reports. So you can check on, check your readership and see if they're opening up your report. So that's also a plus in looking at usage metrics.
Oh, sorry. I had my eyes on the chat. I had my eyes on the chat, y'all. I was checking out what we were saying over there. All right. Let's see what we've got. So is a dashboard right for you? So why this worked so well for Vicky was because she had that separate semantic model situation where it made sense for her different models to remain separate as their own little data marts. But then, of course, we needed to bring those together to give the executives all the key performance indicators from the different topics in one space so they knew where they wanted to look next. Then we have the mobile aspect. Vicki, if you'll go ahead and show that next bullet point, that she was able to tailor this to be exactly what her executives needed in their hands as they're out and about on the go. And lastly, I wanted to talk about workspace roles. So the next point here is that Vicki mentioned that the advancement data management team is made up of 2 people. There are only 2 people that are actually doing the development of reports and publishing those reports for others to use, and then subsequently, building off of them. Their audience is really all viewers. They're just consumers of the information, and so Vicky's workforce, herself and her colleague are the ones that are responsible for pinning, which you saw was tricky and frustrating. And by having other users kind of locked out of their workspace and not at that higher level of access, they were able to really control the experience of their users. If you're in a case where you have a lot of collaborators in your workspace, you may or may not want to introduce the ability for them to start pinning willy-nilly onto any old dashboard. But let's go on to the next point I wanted to make, since I mentioned the viewer role, is that in your workspace, you can assign various levels of various roles of access. And so in the documentation that's available for download, you can access that Docs tab now to make sure you've downloaded today's presentation. You'll be able to access these links and check out the additional information about the different roles that are available in workspaces. In Vicky's case, she hasn't even assigned those executives the viewer role because she's choosing to share the reports and the dashboards very specifically. She'll open up the dashboard and say share report with these specific users, and that's how she's managing who has access and what level of access they have. When I saw that was the method she was using, I started experimenting with the concept of a Power BI app. And so go on to our next slide here, Vicki. When we create an app, what that lets us do is manage various audiences, because in Vicky's situation, she only wanted the executives to have access to the dashboard. The other fundraisers need access to the reports because they're down in there doing the work. They know where they need to go and what work they need to do in that report. So they need access to the reports, not to the dashboards. That, in my mind, becomes 2 separate audiences, a general audience and an executive audience. And a Power BI app is really designed to help you manage those audiences. So here, for example, you can create that app, and then you determine what content from your workspace belongs in there. So in this app, we've got, this is my sample, a sample dashboard with a couple of reports, right? And then the third step is to determine the audience. And here you see my general audience. On the sample dashboard, we've hidden the sample dashboard by crossing out that I, right? So the general audience cannot see the sample dashboard, but they can see the 2 reports. The executive audience, you can imagine, is able to see all 3 points. Then it's not a case, thank you, Vicki. Let's take a look at this for a moment. It's not a case of assigning a viewer role necessarily. Instead, you have these advanced settings where you choose whether or not the people in that audience are allowed to share the data sets or build content. And in Vicki's case, no, because they're essentially viewers. And that's how she's controlling the level of access that they have. I wanted to walk through this in case you're in a similar situation where you need to define different audiences for content that's in a workspace. And maybe you'd already looked at workspace roles and said, that's not how I choose who has access to what in my workspace. What should I do? An app might be the answer. So you can then, the app, if we go on to, we'll go on to the next slide, which I think is our last slide here. This is an image of what the app looks like on the web, but also this defines what people are able to see in the mobile app when they open it up. And if you have multiple workspaces and people are members people are members of audiences of different apps, then they can see multiple Power BI apps in their mobile device. But the point is that here we're controlling what each audience can see. Here we're viewing the executive audience's view where they're able to see a sample dashboard. On the phone, this might be a different layout where it's stacked and you scroll. So I did want to take a moment to talk about the apps and the control of audiences, because Vicky certainly has a couple of different audiences that she's sharing with. I see your question, Vicky, about Becky, where do users access an app versus a dashboard? So each is going to have a link, and you're going to have the ability as the person who created either of those to identify the share link that you can send out. But the apps are still also going to be available at app.powerbi.com, just as the dashboards are, depending on whether or not people are members of workspaces where they have a role in a workspace where they can access it. But generally, you'll use the links that are available for each.
Yeah, I think it's very important to have, separation between, the various different reports, because really not everybody in advancement does not need to see the deep dive of emissions data. And security-wise, the various different departments can develop their own Power BI reports, and then we can roll it up to a dashboard for leadership. So that's the very useful piece, very useful tool for us to use. And I think Jean has a question about those usage metrics through the app or through the Power BI. It's the usage metrics is from the app usage, from the dashboard actually usage. So it's published past the Power. It's in the workspace, and it's in the it is in the workspace. And then are there other questions?
Yeah, I also saw a question from Jill about incorporating these types of visuals into the Razor's Edge NXT Work Center. So what I would mention about the Razor's Edge NXT is that through Sky add-ins, it is possible to display a Power BI report in the Razor's Edge NXT. And Yesenia was doing a presentation. I'm sorry, that's not very helpful. There's a presentation that's happening at BB Dev Days that may have already happened that is precisely about how to embed a Power BI report into the Razor's Edge NXT. And so I highly recommend that. Now, the features we were talking about, the dashboard, the app, that's external. But still, you would be able to get pretty far with those Sky add-ins, putting your Power BI dashboards in front of your users. There was another question I answered earlier about the licensing for the viewers. So if you were to embed a Power BI report in the Razor's Edge NXT, anyone who's trying to view that needs to have some sort of license to view it. So it's free to develop in Power BI Desktop, but as soon as you publish up to the Power BI service, you've got to have at least a pro license to publish, and then anyone viewing must also have at least a Power BI Pro license. There are other licensing options based on capacity.
And Jewel, thank you so much. You found a different use of the Power BI dashboard focusing on data validations. I think it's very useful to me too. So I might implement some data validation reports so I can then look at the anything that look at the alerts on my phone. It's actually very useful. Thank you. Can you please links to, are there any other questions with regards to, and what, so I do have a question because I would like to know like what KPIs you would like to put in a dashboard, you know, for leadership.
So we did get some answers to that earlier. Now I feel like my chat doesn't let me scroll up to all of this stuff. I think it only lets us go back so far, but we will be able to review those after our session too. What do we have coming in through the new comments?
To this
Oh, thank you guys for popping in the link or the name of Yesenia's session, how to display your Power BI report inside Blackbaud Razor's Edge and XT. Ooh, patients converting to donors is a KPI.
Oh, yes. Wow, that's a good one.
Monitoring funds and station revenue.
Yeah. Yeah. See all different funds and station revenues. Good ideas. Very good ideas. Yeah.
Now, Jewel, I'm curious if you were able to automate any alerts or out of Power BI through any metric monitoring. It's stuff I have not touched in, and I think Power BI has changed how they do some metric monitoring. I was curious if you had any, if you were just starting to dabble in that, or if you had any suggestions for other features people can use to get alerts. Of course, there is Power Automate that can monitor the state of data and send emails or Teams messages when something needs attention. Okay, so Joel has some emails going out. Okay.
I do believe that we got everybody's, well, how many opportunities generated, also how many, those are some great metrics there too.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Gift officers, Power BI is made for them, right? Yes.
I believe we got to everyone's questions, but I will be going back through the chat and making sure that there isn't any that we missed. And we will follow up with you individually if we need to. But I am also going to be launching a free survey that we'd love for you to participate in. It helps and us with continuous improvement and really appreciate in advance everybody's participation today and to our wonderful speakers providing so much insight into Power BI. Thank you all. I'm going to go ahead and launch that survey.
Launching now. Thank you, Cooper.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Just sent out that survey, guys.